So today we're just going to spend a little bit of time together, and we're going to talk about handling the internet leads. Everyone, I would say this, there's no one, I think we all realize, first of all, there's probably no one way to handle an internet lead. I think if you got a room together, and if you got a room together of 50 people and said, how do you handle a lead? How do you handle a lead? 50 BDC, get the 50 top BDC agents in the country, and we'll call it a BDC agent, even though we understand that here you're taking the leads from cradle to grave, so it's a little different. You're just a salesperson. You're really a salesperson whose leads are coming from the internet. You're just really a salesperson. But when we talk about handling the leads, it's more of how to handle the interaction, how to handle the templates, how to handle what you're sending and things like that. If you had 50 people in a room and asked them, what is your process? You'd get 50 different processes, and they would probably be all okay to some extent. So what I always say, listen, I've been in the business for a long time. I ran 2 huge BDCs. One was in Orlando. It was in a store that was getting about 1,500 leads a month, 2,000 calls, had about 20 cradle to grave sales associates. That's like a store in a store. After that, went to Atlanta, still with Asbury, and there had a corporate BDC that handled the leads for 100 stores. So, you're talking tens of thousands of leads. And having to train people who last week were working at, you guys are professional salespeople, having to take someone who was working the counter at Home Depot last week, and now they've got to, the funny thing is that the goal is still the same. It's to get them to show up. And that's one of the things that sometimes it's hard as a salesperson, especially a veteran, to disconnect a little bit. We'll talk about it, that our nature is to pre-qualify a little bit. I think that if anyone says they don't pre-qualify leads, they're a liar. I say that on record. I think that as a veteran, if I'm talking to someone who's telling me I got bad credit, I'm upside down in my car, I can't get a co-sign, I got this, mentally I'm losing a little interest in that. That's just human nature a little bit with the leads. And so the big thing is to remember is that what we're going to go through here is just, there are some ways that when you're handling the leads that you can improve the odds of getting them in. And I think that one of the toughest things, having had BDCs and having had BDC reps who just were basically appointment setters, and that's not, I don't mean that demeaning. I mean that's the toughest job, is getting them in, really. Once you get them in, you're on. Toughest job is just getting these people in. Especially internet leads as opposed to phone ups, where this isn't phone up training or anything like that, but this is the toughest lead, obviously, to get in, because generally speaking, you are not the only person who has what they're interested in. That's just a fact. Now, maybe a year or 2 years ago, you were. There was one WRX in the state of Connecticut, and you had it. It didn't take a lot to get those people in, but as you see now, things are getting a little bit back to normal. Everybody has inventory. So before, where the people were probably driving here from Manchester or Hartford or wherever because you had it, now we'll need to use their names, but we know who's up there. Now they have those cars too again. So things are getting a little bit back to normal. So what I say in here is, I'm probably not going to show you any slide where you're going to say, wow, it's like revolutionary thinking. But I will say that having had to have 100 agents and watching, everything to me is a sports analogy. It's like watching game film. You think about these guys like the Bill Belichick's, and at 70 years old, and his father was a scout there, and he's probably been watching game film since he was about 10. So 60 years of watching game film. They see things that we don't see. No matter how good we are at Madden, no matter how many games we watch at once on the Octabox, on NFL Red Zone, there's things that they see watching game film that we don't see. And so what I'm going to show you today, we're not going to spend a lot of time, but is just going over some things that really do work. And all I want you to do is, this isn't saying what you're doing is wrong. I think that's the main thing I want to get across. It's not to say that what you're doing is wrong, but what you want to have to, like anything else, you have to be open to thinking, can I approach things a different way? If you have any questions, let me know. If it's a really detailed questions, we can park up till after the workshop. And like I said, it's not too long, but I think that you're going to see that we're going to talk about some things that you might not have thought about before, Or like any other time you go through training, it's generally things that you've heard before, but you're just getting another reminder of them. Okay? So, any questions before we get started? Anything, Seth? Good to see you again.
Hi, how are you?
Good to see you. Absolutely. All right. So, okay. Again, a lot of things are basics. It's a reminder of things. And again, what I would say is, I'll preface this by saying that the world is a little different post-COVID. The dealerships are different. The internet's different. Most of the things, though, especially now, remain the same. We're going to really be focusing in on basics. And these are things that, I would tell you that I have taken leads in the last 12 months. See, that's the difference. Sometimes you might have someone come in here, you might have a trainer or a consultant comes in and tells you all these things. They might not have ever worked a lead, right? They know a lot about, it's almost like being a coach of a basketball team, but you never played basketball. Now, there are coaches not really anymore, but in the old days, they had coaches who learned the game out of a book and all of a sudden they were coaching a team. I think we realize that's probably not feasible this day and age, but I just want to let you know that in this market, I have worked leads in the last 12 months, from incoming leads to incoming calls. So a lot of these things are what I do, but a lot of them are just really best practices. So all I want you to do today is have an open mind and say, and compare yourself, what am I doing compared to the things that I'm mentioning here? And just take a couple of things and say, how can I just sharpen my saw? That's all it is. We're not here to blow up the machine because it's not broken. What we want to do is just give you a couple of little things, some maybe things that you haven't remembered or you haven't done in a while. So the first one we're going to talk about is call, email, and texting on day one. Schedule a follow-up call for later in the day when time allows. Now that seems really, really basic. But I can tell you that when we audit leads in most stores, it's almost never done that way. You'll see, first of all, remember what this says? Call, then email. Not email first. Okay, why do you think that is? Why should we be? And again, your way might be you email right out of the gate. So again, I'm going to explain my way of what I think is the best practice. Why do you think you would want to call before you email?
Call, get some on the line, and then avoid all the emails back and forth. Just pretty much just go straight to the call.
Yeah, the email has to be based on the results of the call. If someone sends in a lead on a WRX and I talk to him and find out that he wants you actually fat-fingered it and really wants an Impreza, I don't want to send an email that says, thank you for your interest in the WRX. It's got to be tailored, and you're absolutely right. You can't imagine how many people email right out of the gate to stop the clock. The problem with that is that if I get them on the phone, I might be setting an appointment, which means that email really becomes a thank you for the conversation, maybe a little bit of a recap on what we talked about, and it becomes an appointment confirmation email. Okay? These three are all done in succession. Again, some things, and again, these are results of thousands of leads being audited. Thousands over the course of the last few years. You'll see a call, then you'll see an email 4 hours later. There's an issue there. You got a planner, especially for you that are selling and taking the leads. You're taking these leads, you're trying to do a follow-up planner with, you may have 50 plus tasks in there, and you got 2 appointments for today, and you got deliveries. That's a lot going on. And what happens is, sometimes you think that you're going to get to that, and you don't till later on in the day. And the problem is, we know that the clock is on when that lead comes in. We've got to get a hold of them as soon as possible, because we live in an impatient world and odds are, if I've sent in a lead, I've sent it into 2 of your competitors, and whoever gets a hold of me first, that is a fact of life in the internet. Whoever gets them first gets them. That's just the way it works. So that's why we talk sometimes about speed, but the big thing is call, email, and texting immediately. You can't imagine how few people are still texting these days. I've audited a lot of leads, and when I've sat in seminars and said, tell me if you text. And of course, if you don't raise your hand, you're a liar. Most people, except my dad, don't text. He's got a flip phone. The only one who didn't raise his hand is legit. But I'd say, but why aren't you texting your customers? Right? And let's face it, we live in a world where really, if I had to choose one of the three and they said, listen, Tony, you only have one, you have to choose one mode of communication and it's all you could use, I would use texting. Because I think you realize, I've been in seminars. I remember once I was in St. Louis and I said to a room full of people, I said, at the break, I want you to bring me the names and phone numbers of some people who you haven't been able to get a hold of. They're ghosting you completely. And when we got back, we sent out like 50 texts and got back 35 responses within 10 minutes. The people have never been texted. Let's face it, you all know that if you had an email right now, unless you're getting an alert on your phone, you don't know about it, right? And a call could go to voicemail. But if you got a text, you're gonna look right down on your phone, especially like with the new ones, it's an always on display. You've been in meetings before, we're not calling anybody out. You look down, you see I've got a text. It's instantaneous. That is the absolute most important. And then finally, the last thing is scheduling up the call for later in the day. I think this is one thing you almost never see. And again, this depends on when the lead comes in. If I make a call at 9 o'clock, the lead came in, it's an overnight lead. I make a call at 9 o'clock in the morning and I don't get a hold of them. I have to try calling again later in the day. It's not okay to call again tomorrow. You have to schedule a call manually for later in the day. So I think that those are kind of basic things, but your day one should immediately have 4 parts to it. A call, an email based on the call, the text, same thing, could be based on an email or call, depending on there. And I'm also, again, we'll talk about in another slide about looking to see if those emails are being opened, because that's a big tell right there. And then finally, scheduling a follow-up call for later. And again, throughout these slides, I just want you to think of what do I do, and what am I showing you, and how can I put them together to set more appointments. Because that's what we're trying to do. We're just trying to get them in. It's hard when you're a salesperson to think about that. It's why BDCs were invented. BDCs were invented simply because appointments go up in stores with BDCs. That's a fact. If any store in the United States wants to increase their appointments, you have to take on the cost of the BDC. It's not like, salesmen are on commission. We're out there cleaning snow off of cars. We're out moving cars. Why? Because we're free. We're being paid, technically speaking. That's why they use us for everything. But once a BDC is established, they always set more appointments. Why? Because they don't know anything about the girl I hired last week from Home Depot customer service. She doesn't know about bad credit and beacon scores and what the term upside down. You got to give her a cheat sheet on what our slang is, right? She don't know any of that. The customer just says, I want to come in and get a car. I don't really have that good of credit. All she's thinking is, I get paid to set an appointment. Okay, when do you want to come in, sir? Are you sure I don't got really good credit? Oh yeah, don't worry. When do you want to come in? That's all they're saying. If we're honest, I'm like, hey, what'd you say your credit score was? Do you got cosigner? How much money down? You trading anything in? Who's that financed with? Oh, that's financed with Santander? Who's that? Oh, it's financed with Westlake. In our mind, we're processing it all together. Money down, cosigner, you might want to wait. We pre-qualify a little bit, if we're honest. That's why BDCs work, and that's why the one thing I want you to see that is to really be successful in the internet, you've got to, I hate that be dumb word or forget everything, that's not what we're saying. But you have to a little bit be naive and just say, I'm just going to get them in. I'm just going to get them in, and let's see what happens. And you know what? The guy might come in with a 400 beacon and he's 10 grand upside down and no cosigner and you can't do nothing about it. Okay. But at the same time, the one thing we know is I think all of us in this room and all of us throughout the country can raise your hand and think of a time when you thought there was nothing there and somehow a deal came about. He brought in his mother, who the grandmother in California co-signed, or the auntie gave them 10 grand down because they needed the money. You just don't have any kind of shot. So all I want you to think in the back of your mind is all I want to do is get them in. That's the main thing. It's not, we're going to talk about it. It's not working deals, desking deals, sending menus to everybody. It's really getting them in if you can. Okay? Always review the leads. Again, these will seem like such common, of course you review the leads. Again, these are based off of thousands of audits. I can't tell you how many times the customer will say in that initial email, what is the color of that interior? And we send back an email that says, thank you for your request on the 2022 WRX. That's a great car. We've got great ones in stock. When did you want to come in, tonight or tomorrow, to take a test drive? And there's no mention of it. I think that we also live in a culture we're very impatient with people. We're just a little impatient. And I think what happens is, if we're honest, that if you ask, just think of yourself. If you send in a lead to a boat place and say, yeah, I'm interested in this boat that you have listed online, could you tell me, is that what's the horsepower on the engine? Oh yeah, that boat's available. When did you want to come in? You'd be like, hey dummy, I asked you about the horsepower of the engine. Can you please answer me? Now you may be nice and say, oh, thanks for the quick response. By the way, how much is the horsepower? But in your mind, for a second, if you're honest, you're probably thinking, I want to know about the horsepower. And let's face it, some people, you don't answer their questions, forget about it. So again, you have to be very careful. You take the time to answer the questions. If someone asks about, and the one thing I would say, and you've heard this a million times before, is those questions will never go away. If someone's asking you about their best price, you have to handle it. If they're asking about what's their trade value, you have to handle it. If they're asking you about interest rates, you have to handle it. It will never go away. It's going to pop. It may be suppressed for a lead or two or a communication for a two, but it always pops its head. So I know, again, a lot of these things are really basic. They're just a refresher. We all need a reminder sometimes, is that take a few minutes, and even if you have to go into the original HTML lead to look to see, am I missing any questions? Absolutely, okay? This is something that, again, let's talk about it a little bit, and then I'll explain a little bit. When a trade is mentioned, switch your focus to that. Always ask about possible trades if they don't mention it. They may be eligible for additional monies, etc. Most deals come down to trade value. If they are a value your trade lead, make sure you tell them that that's a sight unseen estimate and that it may be worth more once your manager sees it. Use this as a call to action to set up an appointment for a professional appraisal. The one thing that I've learned is that first of all, I think we all realize, whether it's in the showroom or in the internet, if there's a trade involved, it'll always be about the trade value. It just is always what it comes down to. When they're shopping online, if someone, especially on a value your trade, remember those value your trades are different tools, and they're set up by management to give different values. So one store may use Black Book, clean. Back Book, good. Kelly Blue Book, clean. So you have to think, you got to put your mind in the customer's mind. If it's a value your trade lead and they see $10,000 for their trade, and your competitor's saying is set at the high number and tells them 13, you just won't see him. You just won't see him again. It'd be nice to think they're going to say, hey Joe, your competitor's offering me 13, and then you'll be able to get yourself out. Well, it might be worth 13 if we see it. But what I'm saying is, go on the offensive with trades. What I've learned is that if you don't start talking about that trade, what is left to talk about? Is the availability of the new car and the price of the new car. The trade is the one that, if you agree that trades are the one thing that most people are most sensitive about, then that gives you another angle to focus in on. Because I'm telling you that everyone is talking about availability. Oh yeah, we got it, we're the best price. We got it, we're the biggest dealer. We got it, we'll give you the best deal in town. Everyone is saying the same thing. Even though you here are legitimately the biggest for the most part in this area, everybody's saying that. And so it doesn't really get you anywhere when you're using that. So what I want you to think about is a couple things. If a customer has a trade-in and I was auditing your leads, I need to see you mentioning that trade in your initial email 100% of the time. There's no gray areas there. You get the lead in. Now, the customer's not asking, I just want you to think about this. The customer's not asking you what their hasn't even mentioned it, but you see the lead come in and it says they're in on a 2023 Impreza, their trade is a 2019 Impreza. They don't mention anything else about it. I'm going to mention in that first email, 100% of the times I see you're trading in a 2019 Impreza, we absolutely need that vehicle. How soon can you get it here? I'm going to switch the whole focus to his trade-in. Because when it comes to availability and pricing, everyone's going to say we got it and we're the lowest price. Okay? So I think that I would say that that may be something that you haven't heard in the past, but that is something that is absolutely a stone cold killer. Talking about the trades. Not just when they ask what their trade is worth. Listen, if I'm interested in a new vehicle and all of a sudden you tell me, hey, by the way, I noticed you have blank trade-in, we need that car. My general manager had a meeting this morning. That car was on the list. We need your car. We're paying top dollar for it. How much? I don't know. When can you get it here? Now you shift to the trade. Because if you don't shift them off the trade, all you have to talk about again is availability and pricing. So again, The whole structure of this workshop is to bring up some things that you may not have thought about in the past. If they come in, is this a true statement? They may be additional monies. I just bought a new car. I got an additional $500 because I own a Honda product. Okay? I sent in leads and almost no one mentioned it. Now, I'm in the industry, so I knew about it, but what if you were not in the industry? Think about this. You send in 3 leads to 3 dealers, and one of them mentions the trade-in assistance. What is that making you think? Mm-hmm. You're thinking the other 2, are you keeping that from me? I shouldn't have. You know what you say in this interview? You say, I shouldn't have to ask you if there's trade assistance. Like, as soon as I sent my lead in, this lady said, oh, you get an additional $500 because you currently have a Honda. Mm-hmm. The other 2 people didn't even mention it. So, now, I'm not going to be that way, but a civilian, we'll call them civilians, right? They might think, boy, why didn't you mention it? Are you trying to keep that from me? Right? So just think about it. This is a true statement. They may be eligible for additional monies. Most values, and again, these value your trade leads. If it's a value your trade lead, your whole initial email has to focus on that trade. Listen, if someone sends in a value your trade lead, listen, again, we understand. Some of them, they're not really in the market. We're not talking the 80-20 rule. We're not talking about those people. I'm not talking about the guy who just bored at 2 a.m, wants a value on his car. I'm saying that if you get a value your trade, that tells you something about that lead. It means the trade is the key to them. And you have to make them feel that no matter what that estimate was, in most cases, there's more money available. If you don't, then whoever gives them the most on paper is going to get them in. And again, if we go back to our initial statement that says the goal of the internet lead is what? Not to sell them a car, to get them in. Then I'm not telling you to tell them whatever you have to do to get them in your line. That's not what we're talking about. But I think you agree that if the value of your trade says 10 grand and they come in here with a one-owner car in mint condition, and we may have to put 11.5 on it to make the deal. In most cases, we're going to make the deal. Or we could at least show them the 11.5. We're going to have a screen in here where we talk about don't desk manage these deals. And when I use that term, don't desk manage it, I don't get ahead of myself, but I'm not saying that you're not telling them lease payments and not telling them numbers, but you have to be very careful. This is where you got to kind of close off the salesman in your mind a little bit and think like an appointment setter. Appointment setters, they don't know what trades are worth. Just think about how a BDC works. You take someone who's never maybe even sold cars and you pay them to set appointments. They get paid when they show, and when they show, and when they sell. It's all they know is get them in, get them in, get them in, get them in. And you heard it, right? It's on the desk. We've been saying it all year. Just get them in, just get them in. Hey, this guy wants this, just get them in. You hear it. If you sit at the desk and put a tape recorder, you'll hear the term just get them in all day long. It's the exact same thing here. So again, we're talking about it. Always, don't just say, make it so it's special. It's a professional appraisal. When you come in here, with a professional appraisal, all I'm suggesting here is that this is my world. If I was on the floor tomorrow and I was working leads, I'm all about that trade. And I can tell you, it will differentiate me from everyone else working that lead. Because everyone else gets the lead, and they send the same template back. Yes, thank you for your interest in the blank. That vehicle is available, exclamation point, right? When did you want to come in for a VIP test drive, blank or blank? Let me know if you have any questions, sincerely. Stop me when I get off base here. It's the same thing. Everyone is saying the same thing. But meanwhile, I come in and say, hey man, I noticed you got a 2005 Ford Taurus. Buddy, we need that car. Really? It's junk. It doesn't matter. We got some wholesalers that are looking for junk. When can you get it here? Instead of, I'm not going to say it, but sometimes as a salesman, you might say, oh, an 05 Taurus. Oh, you're probably better off putting that thing on Craigslist or something, right? Maybe they are. Remember, this isn't about the truth. Maybe they are better off putting it on Craigslist. But I know this. Putting them on Craigslist doesn't get me any. Telling the customer that they should that's not worth a lot and they should put it on Craigslist doesn't get me any closer to getting them in any sense in a way. So again, this is something that most BDCs and most internet people, they don't really talk too much about. They talk a little bit about the trades. But again, for me, and the flip side of this is what I don't have in here is, if they don't mention a trade, you see, always ask about possible trades if they don't mention it. I'm asking you, hey Corey, by the way, do you got a trade? It's first thing out of my mouth. I want to know because I'm going to shift the whole focus to his trade. I'm going to say, listen, Corey, everybody in town can sell you the car basically for the same. We all pay the same for it. They know that. It's your trade that matters. it is always going to come down to the trade. So again, bring it up, switch your focus to it. If they mention they have a trade, you want it. If they don't mention a trade, you ask about it. There may be additional monies available. And again, on these value your trade leads, always remember, you have to 100% of the time let I know you received a value for your trade. That is just an estimate. In most cases, the vehicle is worth more money. How soon can you bring it down for a professional appraisal? That kind of makes sense, right? Again, it's not something that maybe you heard or you're not doing. What I want you to think about as you look at these slides is, what do I do? Because all of you have a process. We could have you write it out. I could give you a legal pad and say, everybody write down your process. Okay, I want you to think about, here's your process and here's this process. What in here can I add to mine to make my process better, right? Because that's all we want to do here. We just want to set more appointments, because we all know if we set more appointments, we're going to sell more cars. So the trade, to me, my process is, I'm all about the trade. I'm one of them guys, I'm just always about the trade. Because I know that that's the one thing that's going to differentiate me from everybody else. Always mention other benefits of doing business with your dealership besides telling them you're the largest dealer in the area. Everyone says that, true or not. So, if you have a free lifetime warranty, if you have free scheduled maintenance, whether it's shuttle services or benefits in the dealership or free car washes for life, whatever it is, talk about it, because that we're the largest dealer in the area, everybody is saying it. You should have a why buy here template. What are the advantages of doing business with our dealership? It should absolutely be part of your repertoire. We're going to talk about follow-up in a week. You can only send them so many emails. Listen, we all understand, it's like I'm sending them basically the same email over and over and over. You're going to check out. Think about when you get emails, every email needs to be a little bit distinct. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. But just again, don't be afraid to tell them, especially in the initial email, why should I do business with you? Whatever it is, we're a 5-star Google review dealer. Well, put that in there. Remember how important I just want you to remember as we move through here, how important that initial email is. That initial email, that a lot of times is the only one they're going to read and pay attention to. If you think about when you're going through your inbox and you're getting second, third, fourth emails from places, we tend to blow through them. It's the first email that you're paying attention to. So the first email is critical. And I'm not saying an email that's this long, but I'm saying an email, short, bites, hooks, like a tackle box. That initial email should be just like a tackle box. Make that tackle box thing in your mind. It should have hooks all over it to grab, whether it's interest rates, rebates, incentives, your trade, whatever it is. I'm going to throw everything in there, because I got to think like I thought when I was a manager. I still think this way. When a customer comes through those doors, I get one shot to sell them a car. Now, when they leave, I'm going to pound the follow-up so I can get another one. But mentally, when I'm working a deal, and I've said this millions of times, the customers I lose sleep over is not the ones that I push too hard. It's the ones I didn't. Does that make sense? When I go home, I'm thinking, how did I not push that guy harder? How did I not offer more? How did I not go lower? I never lose sleep over thinking, I can't believe I took 7 TOs on that guy and couldn't close him. Then, to me, I did my job. It's the ones that I think I didn't push enough that I lose sleep over. Create a template with customer reviews, maybe links to Google or DealerRater. That way they just don't have to rely on your word. Again, everyone's going to tell them how great of a salesperson you are, how I'm easy to work with. Everyone is saying the same thing. The number one thing with people, whether it's books or movies, are referrals. If you buy a book today and you go to that back cover, you're going to see so-and-so says, best book ever, most professional book ever, New York Times book. Why? Because we do live in a world of reviews. Whether it's Yelp, whether it's Google, Amazon. Look, you look at Amazon and you look at the reviews and you start to think, boy, how could they have all these good reviews? How come there's no bad reviews in there, right? You almost start to think, are they fake reviews? But we are conditioned now to look at reviews. Mm-hmm. Either your Google or your DealerRater, but all of you have positive reviews from the customers. Make a template that's called your review template. That's got, hey, listen, Joe, everyone's going to tell you that they're going to take care of you. I'm going to send you some names and maybe numbers of people, actual customers who you could feel. You should have a handful of customers that give you permission to say, hey, can a customer reach out to you and you tell them how great I am? You know you got those ones in the hip who love you. They're the ones who bake you cookies, bring you cakes. They give you a 900 on a survey if they could. Well, how often do we pull them into play? Folks, don't take it my word from me. Call Corey, call someone. Whether you're using DealerRater or Google, you don't have to have 1,000 reviews in there, but you should have a template that has some reviews that say, Seth is this, Seth took care of me, Seth came out to the house, Seth did this, Seth came. Just that way they don't have to rely on your word. We do live in the world of reviews now, more than ever. I know reviews have been around for a while, but oh my gosh, everything is review driven now. That's why you should absolutely have a template. And again, we're gonna get back to, I'm gonna be telling you that you need to contact them, 5 out of 7 days in the first week, and that's only because the other 2 days managers need to be involved. You're gonna say to me, what am I telling them? Right? You could be honest. What do I keep telling them? What am I going to send them on day 3, day 4 that I haven't already sent them? How about your day 3 says, hey, listen, I know everybody tells you they're going to take great care of you. I've got proof. Feel free to contact any of these customers. Of course, you got to get permission from the customers. But that's powerful. We live in a society where people don't trust anybody anymore. And you wouldn't be surprised. Someone may pick up a phone and say, hey, I'm spending 30, 40, 50 grand. I want to know that this guy's actually going to take care of me. So absolutely you should have a template with Google, DealerRater, whatever you're using. Okay, notes. Notes. I remember when I was running that corporate one, the CEO said, Tony, it's all about notes. Now this is the CEO. Not a market guy, the CEO. Tony, it's all about notes. I better see good notes in every lead you take, every lead you work. We're talking about thousands and thousands of leads coming in. So I better see copious, very detailed notes on every lead that comes in. It's all about notes. Again, the thing about notes is that and again, we're talking about marketing clearly at e-leads because you use e-leads in the store. If you're a VinSolutions store, you'll be using them in VinSolutions. Whatever your CRM is. But the conversation and the notes are clearly marked. You should never be talking to a customer and there's no notes. There has to be some note. If I talked to you for a minute and you told me, hey, Tony, I'm in the bathroom, call me back, that's the note. Under what circumstance, if you actually talk to someone, would there not be a note? Right? If, no matter what it is, customer shopping around, customer shopping things, you've got to make sure that every lead and again, I know this one sounds, oh my God, well, of course, that's common sense, put notes in there. I could start pulling up some leads and show you how many have no notes. So then we've challenged the managers, hey, day 2, get involved. Well, how does Bob call day 2 and he says something, there's no notes in there, and all of a sudden, oh yeah, well, I told your guy this yesterday, or I told you that young lady yesterday on the phone, you look like a fool. We got enough problems. We got enough of a challenge getting them in. We don't need any impediments. So notes. You should never work a lead that doesn't have notes. Again, and all these LM, left message, off message. If you're leaving messages all the time, we'll talk a little bit about it in here, but you've got to look and see, am I calling at the same time? What am I doing? Am I calling the same number? Do I have 2 numbers? You wouldn't believe how many times you look at leads that there's 2 numbers provided and no one called, they only call 1 number. Again, I know that these aren't mind-blowing things. We're not trying to split the atom here. It's just a refresher to remember how important notes are. And especially, it's not just you guys that are being asked to step the game up a little bit. I think we all realize that COVID's over, for the most part. Things are getting back to normal, and the playing field is tougher. Yes or no? It is tougher right now again. It was tough pre-COVID. Pre-COVID, it wasn't easy working the internet leads, by no means. Even when you're at the biggest store in the United States, it wasn't easy. I was in the biggest store in Florida. People don't care about that. People don't really care how big you are. Listen, I don't care if you got 900 WRXs. If I want a red one with black trim, I don't care who's got it. I care about who's got it and who's going to give me the best price. Now, the offshoot may be, like we talked about in an earlier slide, oh, they offer a lifetime warranty, or they'll bring the car to me, or they'll take the car out. Little things we'll talk about. But we are back to a time when, just like on the sales floor, if you're noticing, you actually have to negotiate again, right? Not enough for my trade. We have to go back to overcoming objections. It's not enough for my trade. I want a better price. It's not like before when you sent on the price, they said, wow, that's great. I'll be in there tonight. So again, these are just things that I'm sure you've heard this before, but when you're going over the audits, the other thing is when the store is going over audits and you're having some of your audit meetings, it's not a beat up session. It's just like watching game film on a Monday. I don't care if you're Tom Brady. If this guy was open and you missed him, I would want to know, boy, I missed that guy. Well, I'm the greatest quarterback ever played. Okay, but you missed the play. This is just to show you, hey, next time, look. You're not beating the guy up. You're not firing him. You're not saying stand outside and watch through the glass. But you're saying, hey, why do you watch the game film? It's all about improving yourself and getting yourself better, right? So copious notes. Now, I'm a little OCD. And I can tell you that if you send me something with all capital letters, I will know that it's either a template or a form letter. Okay? Make sure the customer name is corrected in the fields. If all caps or the last name appears first, etc. It comes in Smith John. Now you know how many people, I'm not saying this, if anybody's watching and there's a Smith John out there, this isn't about you. Generally it's John Smith. Okay? If you don't, and if you see the name come up, once one way, doesn't always work, but what's one thing that you can look at right away to double check the name? To see the first and last name. What's one area where you can check? Whose email address in here has their name in it? Sure does. Okay. So if you looked at my email, you wouldn't see Anthony Rossano Anthony, you'd see Anthony Rossano. So one way to look at it is there. It's really something simple, but I can tell you that it will make all of your emails, and especially if you're using templates and you're clicking fast, you're going to send up ones that go out with a comma in there, or you know the leads that come from like Car Girls, no last name, right? We're sending leads to Mr. No Last Name. It's totally unprofessional. So the fields. eLeads has a way, and it's probably yours might be set up that way, that it would take the name, the caps, and break it down to capital and then regular letters, if it's templated that way. But the one thing, it just seems these aren't going to be groundbreaking things. It's always about little things. This is a little thing, but I can tell you again, when you go through the audits and you look at the names, you'll see that the name is reversed a lot of times. You'll see that it's all in caps. If you get into the lead and it's all caps, you have to go in and fix it. It's capital, then all small letters. It doesn't seem like a big thing, but I can tell you it is a big thing. If something comes across with all caps or their name is spelled wrong, then they're going to immediately know that you're using templates, or they're going to see it's like a spam, or it's just like a form letter. Okay, so again, small thing, but big thing, especially to some people. There's nothing worse than like when someone will say to me, they'll say Tony, T-O-N-I. That's not how I spell my name. No offense to me, that's the female version. It's not T-O-N-I, it's T-O-N-Y. If I see T-O-N-I, I delete that thing. Unless I'm expecting something from somebody. But it's just, we're quirky, right? We want people to get our names right. No doubt about it. Get the last name as soon as you make contact and enter it in the system, along with the vehicle of interest. Again, these are based off of thousands of audits. When I was on the desk, I would look at the appointment board, and it's John, no last name. Richard, no last name. Now, well, hey, Bob, hey, can you tell me why we don't have to? Oh, it came in a Car Girls lead, for example. Yeah, it comes in as no last name. Okay, but you set an appointment with you, and you talk to them. Okay, why didn't you ask them what their last name is? I'm telling you, I know these aren't groundbreaking things, but they're things to make you think a little, right? That they're to try to open your mind up a little bit. You can't imagine how many leads in there have no vehicle of interest. And again, this gets back to the lead may not have the vehicle of interest. And I talked to them and said, by the way, sir, what vehicle are you interested in? It didn't come across on the lead. I'm interested in WRX. You've got to put WRX in there. I'm interested in a used Integra. I'm interested in a used Audi. You have to put the vehicle of interest in there. How are you possible? Remember, all of your emails are based, a lot of them are based off that vehicle of interest. So again, little things, but making sure that if you talk to someone, verify their spelling of their name. Like if you have the lead in there, sir, can I just want to verify the information that you sent over? Your first name is Gregory, correct? Your last name is Kamman, is that correct? And I have your email address. Don't be afraid. Professionals verify. You know, I should have put in here, professionals verify. They verify, do I have the right name? Do I have the correct address, right? Just because the lead comes across without the address, don't be afraid to ask them the address, right? Hey, where are you calling from? Just because you get a lead, listen, we get leads in that their cell phones are Florida. Now, are you in Florida? Where are you at? Because the lead comes across and says it's in Florida. Oh no, I'm actually up here in Connecticut, right? Do you have a local number? What town are you in? It would be good to know, I would like to know the location of the customer I'm dealing with. Are you in this town, or are you calling from the next state over? We need to get, once you get them on the line, you have to get every piece of information you can, because you may never ever get another chance. I please hope everybody remembers that if you make contact, that's your shot. Fill in every single field you can in that CRM at that moment, because you may never get the chance to physically talk to them again. Okay? Again, offering links to alternative vehicles. I know it's hard for us to believe. Now, we have to remember we're post-COVID now. So it was tough sending someone a used alternative when it was the same price as the new one or more. Okay? The thing you have to remember is, this is where you got to lose your salesman hat a little bit and try to have an open mind to remember that a lot of people that send in a lead on a new car end up buying a used car. It's a fact. Fact. Okay? They realized that I just can't afford that. And now that prices are starting to regulate a little bit, there's more differentiation. It's different when the new one was 50 and the used one was 48. That's a no-brainer, right? But now when the new one's 50 and the used one is 40, there's a little bit of differentiation, there's separation in there. Don't just assume, and again, I would tell you that over probably 80% of the leads we audit do not offer this, unless it's set up as a template. Day 4 offer alternative vehicle. In those stores, they're forced to put in the alternative vehicles. And what I would tell you is your day 1 should have alternative vehicles in there. Again, that day 1's got to be, the day 1 is the anchor of all the leads. The day 1 almost always gets read. Almost always. And if you don't believe me, I always say, don't trust me, just test me. Go see how many of your day 1s are read. It's what they're seeing, what you're saying. It's your first interaction with them. They want to see how you're handling them. They might never ever read another one again, but that first one is what they're reading. So again, if I got a lead in on a new WRX, I'm also going to send a few pre-owned WRXs. I might send in now that's a very specialty vehicle, but if I had a lead on a new Ascent, I might send in a couple of CPOs. What are you going to give them? Too much information, right? You can't give them too much information. You're giving them alternatives. If I walk into the restaurant and they say, yeah, do you sell ice cream? Yeah, we got vanilla. What else? That's it. Okay. Well, most people will probably muddle way through it. Then you walk in there and they say, hey, listen, this place just opened on the street. They got 31 flavors. I'm going to the place with the 31. We want options. So keep in mind that initially, if someone's sending a lead like on an Ascent, I would send them the new Ascent. I might send them some different models. And again, this is, if it comes in on a particular stock number, that's one thing. But even a particular stock number, I'm still thinking in my mind, they might look and think, wow, I can't afford that. After all, I can't afford it. So I'm going to send them a link to some certified ones, and I might send them a link to anything that's close non-Subaru. Because they may end up thinking, boy, I really want to use the Audi. Wow, if I'm going to spend $40,000, I could get a used blank. So you go through your inventory, but you should always be sending alternative vehicles. And it works the flip way around. When someone's asking about a used car, they might come to the assumption that, boy, for a couple extra bucks, I could get a new one. Hey, Mr. Jones, here's the information on the used one. Now, especially if it comes across with a stock number, they've already probably seen the file on that one on our website. Okay? But don't be afraid to say, hey, I know you inquired about this used Impreza. You know, let me also show you some new Imprezas for you to consider. And then again, when we give them more talking points, when we talk, we can discuss them. Never assume that the vehicle they inquired is about the one you're interested in. You can do phone training across the United States. We all know that it's a fact that like 75% NADA says of these phone ups that come in, they buy something else. So they call here asking about a used Impreza, they end up buying a Ford Focus, or that's just the nature of the beast with used cars. We have to have that same mentality when we get in a lead, that I've got to give them as many, again, the hooks, right, in a nice way. I've got to give them enough flavors that hopefully, listen, so I want you to think about it, and I've taught this to, I can't tell you how many agents. If all you talk about is one vehicle and it's all your focus, if there's one little thing they don't like about it, it's game over, right? Whether it's the miles, whether it's the light interior, whether it's the fact that it had a minor accident on the Carfax. If all you talk about is one car, that's why when we teach taking sales calls, it's, so if I had other vehicles, this is old school, right? Yes, sir, you're calling in on an F-150. Sure, what attracted you to that vehicle? Was it the style or the price? Well, I'm looking for a pre-owned vehicle truck. So if I had other pre-owned full-size trucks around that price, you'd be interested in looking at them too? We realized that a customer who's an F-150 would probably buy the Ram or a Silverado if it was comparable, right? If it was comparable. It's the same thing here, but we don't have it. What we do is too many agents focus just on that one vehicle, and then if there's something they don't like about it, they ghost you and you never hear from them again. You have to offer alternative vehicles, and I'm telling you, they should be offered on day one. They should absolutely be offered on day one, because again, if you don't take anything from today, just think about how important that. Just want you to think about what does your day one email look like? Is your day one email a rock star? That should be the last slide I have in here. It's not. I'm just telling you, I'm not blowing the end here. But I should have a slide in here in the end that says, is your first email, day one email, a rock star? If it's not, there's your opportunity. If you don't do anything else take anything else from all this, if you just if you say, this first, I'm getting one shot. You're putting together that first email, I get one shot. I'm going to blow these people's mind. You're going to give them everything you got on that first one, and you're going to find you're going to start to get more contact. Remember, it doesn't matter what you do. It has to lead to a contact. There is not going to be an appointment. Now, I'm not saying someone's not going to email and say, I'd like to set an appointment. Those are like laydowns in the showroom. Most of the time, the goal of an internet lead isn't even really, like I said, let me rephrase what I said before. The goal of an internet lead isn't really to set an appointment. It's really to make contact. Because you got to make contact to set the appointment. So I just throw that little caveat in there. So you got to ask yourself, everything I do, every communication, text, email, phone, whatever it is, am I increasing the odds of making contact? I've got to tell them what they want to hear to some extent to get them on the phone, and then I'll talk my way out of it. And I'm not saying lie or mislead. But what I'm saying is I've got to give them enough juice in that initial email where they want to talk to me, where they want to talk to me, where they want to pick up the phone when I call. Okay? Again, just talking about results from audits. I can't tell you how many times the phone number, whenever the phone number is bad, always ask for a good number. Most bad numbers are just entered incorrectly. Don't be so quick to mark the lead bad. I can't tell you how many leads I audited for a month that were marked bad. Because listen, as a dealer, you want to know what's going on with these bad leads. Am I paying for them? Am I not paying for them? Is it a junk lead source? Leads aren't free. So you want to make sure when you start to see all these bad leads, wow, look at all, I got in 500 leads and 200 of them were bad. Holy cow, what's going on there? The number one reason they're marked bad a lot is that phone number. Now, is it legitimate that you get a bad phone number? Yes, that happens, right? You get leads. I guarantee you've had leads this month with a bad number. But what I'm suggesting is we should never see a lead marked bad for the phone number unless I see an email that went out that said, hey, Mr. Jones, it's Tony. I received your lead. I tried contacting you with the number provided. Unfortunately, it looks like I have incorrect information. Could you provide me with the correct number? If you're honest with yourself, you're probably not sending that out all the time or consistently. You should once again have a bad number template. The minute that number doesn't go through, you shoot the bad number template out. And then, if they're not answering and they don't want to get back to you, then if you can't get a hold of them, especially when you just have a phone number. Now, again, I get it. That's a little tricky when you just have a phone number. The other thing is sometimes social media can give you phone numbers. There's ways online to look for people's phone numbers. All I want you to see is just don't be that quick to mark it bad because you call and it says the number's not in service. And it's unacceptable if there's an email address where they don't get a template that says, I received your information. Unfortunately, I can't reach at this number. What's the correct number? There should always be a template that says bad number template, okay? Social media to find out more about your customer. Now again, for the sake of time, you can't look up every customer you have and look up their Facebook profiles and things like that. That doesn't make any kind of sense at all. But I would tell you that sometimes when you make contact with a customer and you're trying to find out about them or trying to figure a way, maybe you're having a struggle getting them in or you're trying to find out more about them, it is okay using social media. We've looked up we've gotten information off social media. Now there are websites where it uses social media to get information, to get numbers from people and things like that. I'm not telling you to be invasive or anything like that. I'm saying that in some occasions when you're trying to put deals together, or you're trying to get a hold of customers, you can use social media to find out more about those customers if you just type in their name. Again, these are little things, but pay attention to the email, okay? This again is something that is almost never spoken about. And when you audit leads, you'll see an email come in and it'll say, Johnny Smith at GoRedSox.com. Well, I can tell you that in that email, I'm mentioning the Red Sox, whether I'm a Red Sox fan or not. I know it's hard for Yankee fans, for us Yankee fans. I mean, I'm just going to say it. No, we're in New England here, but the work email, it's always a talking point. This is the key here. If it's a business, always mention you have special discount for those kind of employees or military personnel. If it comes across and it says albertusmagnus.edu, oh, do you work it out? I noticed your email said Albertus Magnus. Are you an employee there or are you a student? Oh, you are? Whatever they say, I'm going to say, fantastic. Good thing. I'm glad I found that out. We have special discounts available for blank students, blank employees. Right? At Honeywell.com. Oh, are you an employee at Honeywell? Fantastic. We have special discounts available for Honeywell employees. You'll be the only person telling them that. So now again, I get 3 responses from 3 local dealers, and you're the only one who mentioned that you have special discounts for Honeywell customers. Maybe it's $250. Are you going to lose a deal over $250? No. But I promise you, if you were to say that, you'd be the only one mentioning it. Again, these are things that work. And they're probably things, I'm not asking you to raise your hand if you do it, if you don't use it, because I don't care. What I want you to do is be open and think, when's the last time I looked at that email and did something about it? Right? And I'm talking about when it's clear, especially military. If they're military, you have to mention that you have military discounts. Not everybody knows there's a military program. I got a 21-year-old son in the Army, right? He's not savvy about that stuff. He wouldn't know. He'd have to call me daddy. Do I get any extra money because I'm in the Army? I'd have to tell him. I would be telling him, hey, when you go there, make sure you tell him you're in the military. Not everybody knows that. We think everybody's as notified or up to as we are because we're in the industry. They're not. But you can imagine, this is a huge game changer with that email address. When you see someone who puts a business or a college, you're all over it. That's another talking point. Okay? So if it's a hobby email, that's more of a, hey, did you see the Bruins last night? Right? Someone says, someone's got a Bruins email address. Well, the Bruins are having the best season on record. Okay? Hey, did you see the Bruins game last night? By the way, P.S. I saw you're a Bruins fan. Go Bruins. Maybe a little bear thing or whatever it is. Right? But the other thing is people want to deal with people that they're comfortable with. And like I've always said, if you send someone a template, and I've tried it every different way to try to find what works and what doesn't. So-and-so will send you a template, thank you for your interest. It's always the same. And meanwhile, I send one saying, hey, my man, I see, and I'm talking, and in my emails, I tend to talk just like I talk to you in public. You make them feel comfortable. People want to deal with people they're comfortable with, even emails. I think you've gotten emails from people where you're a little bit more comfortable in the way that they phrase their emails. You get a really technical email, and then you get someone who says, hey, I put in a lead for a guitar, and one guy says, oh yeah, so-and-so's available. And then I get this guy, one guy that says, hey man, he goes, nice to meet you, I got your lead. I played that guitar, it's amazing. As a matter of fact, I'm a professional, I play on the weekends, I used it as a gig last week, it blew everybody away. I'm calling that guy back. Did the other guy do anything wrong? No. But I'm trying to deal with people. I think that sometimes we forget that we can be if this makes sense, we can be personable in an email. I'm not a template guy. Now, I may take a template and redo it. Let me just rephrase that. I am a template guy. They're my own personal templates with my own wording. But those trying to get through your planner and just sending day 2, day 3, day 4, they better be ones that I created. That's why I only use my own templates. So I always say sometimes, I'm not a pre-formatted template guy. Thank you for your interest in the blank. Are you interested? Like when I got into business, it was like 2-door, 4-door, light or dark, manual or automatic. Once I get all, it was the same thing. Every lead was saying the same thing to everybody. And I realized you don't talk that way when they come out in the lot. Hi, sir. Are you looking for a 2-door? Now you may when you're kind of doing a needs analysis a little bit, but we understand you got to lighten up a little bit. So this is huge. This is a game changer with businesses, schools and businesses. You tell them, you ask, hey, I noticed your email address said Raytheon. Are you an employee at Raytheon? Oh my gosh, I'm so grateful that I asked you. There's actually does all Subaru offer that? No, just our store. See, then you got to preface it because then they're going to think all the Subaru. Now, I'll tell you how it works because I've been in this business a long time. They call the other dealer and say, hey, do you have special discounts for Raytheon? And they go through the Subaru corporate list and they say, nope, Raytheon ain't in there. You got bad information. They're lying to you. That's what I would say if I didn't have something to offer. I'd say they're lying to you. It's not available. So what you're saying is, at our dealership, we offer an additional incentive for Raytheon employees. You will not find it any other Subaru dealer. Right? Again, it's the hooks. I got one shot at getting them in. And what I'm saying is if I got 2 mails, think about what we're talking about so far. Just recap it a little bit. You're telling them that your trade's worth more than Kelly Blue Book said. Well, that's exciting to me, right? You're telling me that I got a special discount because I work at Ingersoll Rand. No one else mentioned that. That's exciting to me. You could see how we're weighing out who I'm going to, if I'm a real deal. Now, I'm not talking about a guy who's interested in buying in 10 years from now. I'm saying a real deal. You're starting to put some meat on your side of the scale. And ultimately, if your side of the scale is here, whatever's tipping, that's who I'm going to call. I'm going to at least make contact, and you're a winner. If you get these people on the phone, you're a winner, because then you've got no shot until you make contact. So this is huge, and it works. Trust me. Staggering your call times. Most reps call the customer, the sale same time every day. That won't work. Okay, I was at a store in Florida, and going through leads, and I noticed that for an entire month, no one in the store was making a call after 5 o'clock. I know you say it's impossible. I'm telling you it's not impossible. You want to know why? Because the salespeople are going through the planners every day, bang, 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 bang. They work the planner at the same time every day. So now they might get in at 12, they might get in at 9, but you would see calling at 9, like they come up in your planner, calling it, all the calls you make you're the person, I like to get my planner done before lunch. You never make calls in the afternoon. You never make calls at night. And here was a big Ford store, no calls in 30 days were made after 5 o'clock, not one. Now, if a customer is working, how are you going to get a hold of them? Now, texting wasn't as big back then as it is now. But if you're honest with yourself and you look at your call times, sometimes you have the habit of making all your calls in the morning. Well, sometimes you leave left. I'll go through your left message, I'll see left message, and I'll see like 5 or 6 in a row, and they're all within about an hour or 2 window. You've got to try calling them at a different time. You've got to say, I've been calling this guy in the morning, or first of all, we should be asking them what's the best time to contact you. But when you're just hunting, you've got to stagger the call times. Again, I know it sounds crazy, but be glad to audit your own leads and see you tend to make a lot of your calls around the same time every day. And sometimes you have to stagger it up. And especially most people are home. Your average customer here has a job, they're working, they're not retired, which means you got no shot at getting a hold of them until after probably 5 or 6 o'clock. But what happens is our shift ends at 5, so that's impossible. Or, if we're in a store that closes at 7, we a lot of times go on autopilot around 5. Man, 2 hours left. But if we're honest, we don't really feel like making calls after 5 o'clock. Man, I've had a long day. I've been this, I've been that. But again, if the name of the game is making contact, you got to always ask yourself, is everything I'm doing improving the odds that I make contact with the customer? Each email should have a different message or they'll tune you out. If you use a template, it still needs to be personalized. And again, I talked about templates. I use templates, but they're all personalized. They're all my own templates. You would go in and you'd see probably 50 Tony template, Tony first day, Tony day 5, Tony bad number. They're all personalized. Again, the messages have to change. When we look at what your week should look like, the next day I can't send. Now, a lot of times you'll see the day 2 email is, hey, did you just want to verify, Joe, that you got the information I sent you yesterday. That's a fan favorite. Information, it's called. Information verification template, day 2. Just want to make sure you got the information I sent you. There's nothing wrong with that. But then at that point, if I tell you you got to send them an email 2 days later, what are you going to send them? Oh, the checking in template. Hold on, there's another one, another fan favorite. The top 10 favorites. Just checking in. Don't hope I'm not a bother. Just don't want to be a bother. I've seen that's like a new template that's come out recently. Like, I hope I'm not being a bother. I'm hoping the frequency of my emails are. Who uses the word frequency of emails in normal conversation? Nobody. I'd say I hope I'm not burning you out. Hope I'm not blowing up your email. No one uses the frequency of emails text. So what I'm suggesting is that each email should have something different. Oh, by the way, let me send you some. We just got in a couple of pre-owned and presents. Here's some links to them. Oh, by the way, they just announced a national lease program on the vehicle. Let me send you the information about it. Oh, by the way, I know I know you were looking at a new one, but you should consider some certified ones. Here's a template built that's got all this. What do you get with a certified CPO? Holy cow, they just announced 0.9 for 36 months or up to 60 months on CPO cars. I just wanted to let you know. Too many times, it's the same thing, just phrased differently over and over and over and over and over, and then eventually they just stop answering you. They've got to have a little bite of a different flavor, a little different sampler platter. You got to give them a little bit of the sampler platter on every email that you send out. Again, I know these things sound super simple, but if you look, a lot of times, most of your emails are saying, are you still in the market? Did you get it? Did you get the information I sent? What do you think? Or you send them over the numbers and you say, hey, what did you think about the numbers? I mean, we'll get into some of those. I think I have it on here, but what do you mean? What did you think about the numbers? I mean, there's things we're saying and things we're not, especially when we start to talk about sending over menus. But again, just try to add a little something different in each email. I don't care if the email talks about the Fidelco Guide program. Subaru's got a lot of Save the Earth stuff. I don't care if you have an email that talks about the green program, or the fact that, hey, by the way, just want to let you know our new service department's our renovated service facility is almost open. The renovated service facility and the ability to handle everybody without waiting is what I would be saying. Corey would tell you the details of that. But that's a why by here, that we have one of the largest service departments in the industry. You don't got to wait 2 weeks for an appointment. We get you in most cases, we can get you in right away, same day appointments. Okay? So again, just something different in each email that goes out. All right. Now we're going to get to the heart of things, that you don't take it personally. It's where we're all involved. All offers, however ridiculous, need to be discussed with management. Now, I would bet any amount of money that I have that we can audit, and I've already done it, but that we can audit these leads and see where people have made offers and managers don't know anything about it. Because you as an internet person have told them, nope, can't do it. Hey, can you take $5,000 off a new WRX? Nope. MSRP's best we can do, brother. Thanks for the inquiry. I'm not asking for a show of hands, nothing like that. But what I'm suggesting here is don't desk manage the deal. Now, the caveat there is, I understand that you're giving them prices and payments in some cases, obviously a lot of cases. But if a customer came in here in the showroom and wanted $5,000 off the WRX, you probably wouldn't tell them, sorry folks, MSRP's it, there's nothing else we can do. Okay, thanks, I'm leaving, and let them go. And then a couple hours later, your boss says, hey, what happened to that customer? Oh yeah, they made a ridiculous offer, so I let them go. That wouldn't go well. I mean, no store I've been in that would go over well. You want to know about the ridiculous offer. Now that probably means as a manager, I got to get up and go out and take a TO. Just means it's time for a TO. One of the things you're going to hear me talk about is TOs with internet leads. How often are we taking TOs on internet leads? I told you about, I did a seminar, I had managers in the room, I said, raise your hand if you take TOs on the showroom floor, all the hands went up. Then I said, keep your hands up if you're TO in the internet leads, and almost all the hands went down. But it's just still another lead. And what I'm suggesting is that when people are making any kind of offer, you need to let your manager, hey, boss, I just want to let you know, I just got off the phone with this guy, he's looking for 10 grand off the Impreza. I told him he's out of his mind. The manager should still be informed. The manager might say, okay, handle it. But you have to keep the managers involved when you're getting these offers. And this is where I say, don't desk manage it yourself. Don't make the decision that you can't take the deal. It's okay to say those vehicles are currently selling for MSRP, but if they make an offer and you just say, yeah, that's the best we could do, you're gonna be flat, you're gonna be dead right there. You've gotta say, now with me, what I would say a better way of handling that is, if someone makes that kind of an offer, say, sir, let me ask you a question. What you're looking for probably can't happen, but if it's gonna happen, it's gonna take a manager's involvement. Can I have my manager call you right back? Isn't that what you guys would want to happen, right? Can I have a manager call you right back? What do I get from telling him, hey, it's MSRP, that's it, can't do any better? Let my manager tell him that. Hey, Mr. Jones, the numbers you're looking for don't seem realistic to me, but I'm not the manager. So would it be okay if I had my sales manager give you a call back at this number to discuss it so I don't have to play the middle guy? You won't believe how many more deals you'll make. I'm telling you, we've implemented it in stores where anytime contact is made, it's a 100% TO to a manager, either a BDC manager, an internet manager, or a desk manager. And they absolutely make more deals, 100% of the time. So what we're suggesting is that before you shut someone down, you say to them, now we all know how to negotiate a little bit. You've been in the business for a long time. We got experienced people. But I guarantee you, we did it a couple weeks ago when we audited, where people were making offers and we were told them, no, can't do it. No, can't do it. No, I gotta get 20 grand for my trade. Yeah, Kelly Blue Book says 15. Yep, that's all we can do. Then there's no manager footprint in there. So what I'm suggesting is that when anyone makes you a ridiculous offer, whether it's for their trade or anything, we all know what that means. Something that would take a TO on the floor. This is the rule of thumb. If it would take a TO on the floor, it takes a TO in the internet. Does that make sense? It's the same thing. Mr. Jones, instead of telling him MSRP's it, we're lucky we even got the car. They're the hottest car in the country. No one's got to say, Mr. Jones, what you're asking you can say this. It doesn't seem reasonable to me, but I'm not the decision maker. Would it be okay so that we could save each other some time? And that's a buzzword that you got to get used to, so we could save each other some time. Can I have my sales manager just call you and you can hash it out with him? Because, listen, I worked in stores where MSRP. Yet the customer comes in and we take $1,000 off. How many deals did we blow on the internet because we've been telling everybody MSRP is the best deal? We know when there's not a manager in town, when the customer is warm in the showroom and you're having a bad day, I'm going to take the deal. You're right. His trade, 15 grand it's not even worth 15. But 16 makes the deal, and it's 5 o'clock on a Tuesday and I've sold one car. I'm putting the 16 or I'm cutting that deal. I'm making the deal. Because again, we'll talk about it. You got to remember something that we haven't even really talked about, where the financing. Are you going to be financing this vehicle? I can't remember if I have a slide on that, but that's got to be part of the initial conversation. Are you financing? Why? Because there may be additional incentives that you're available for. Not only that, but I'm thinking, you know what? If I have to go a little deeper on the front, I can make it up on a finance deal. I've told plenty of people, folks, if you want a discount, you have to finance with us. I mean, folks, I'll be glad to give you a little bit more discount. Can you finance? If you can be flexible, I can be flexible. I'll tell you what, you finance with us, I'll give you another $500. I do it all the time. Because I know a cash deal, I was in finance. A cash deal, the odds of a cash deal buying product are here compared to someone who's financing. It's just the way it works in finance. So again, anytime you get, just listen, all these things I'm telling you today, try it. The next time you're willing to tell a customer you can't do the deal, no, just tell your manager and ask the customer, can I have my manager call you? What's the worst that could happen? Your manager tells them you can't do it. Okay, so what? The manager, it's hard to believe for some of us that the manager might have an idea we didn't have. That's hard for us experienced guys. After 30 years, I'm thinking, listen, if I can't close it, nobody can. That's the way I would like to think. Right? If I can't make the deal, nobody can. But the fact of the matter is that my manager my new manager who's been in the business for 2 years may be this guy's neighbor, or used to cut his lawn when he was a teenager. I don't know. But I learned, even when I was selling 25, 30 cars a month, I got a TO on everybody. Because I realized, so what? Let someone else take a swing at him. What do I can't close everybody. Somebody might not like me. They don't like men, they don't like Italians, they don't like short guys, they don't like whatever it is. They don't like New Englanders, you never know when you're not gelling with a customer. But all it takes is that, and I want you to get that through your minds, that the TO on the floor is necessary in the internet. When we do the manager workshops, it's the same thing. TO. The stores that put this into play always sell more cars. Always. Because you just have no idea what deal you're making. You're not always adept. You're not always in the know on dealer money or dealer cash or the fact that it's the end of the month and we need 5 cars to hit our number from the factory. You're not always up on that stuff. And I've had salesmen say, why are we taking, I know it's hard to believe, why are we taking this deal? Well, because we're here to sell cars, because we have a manufacturer, an owner, a general manager. We still need to sell cars. And so again, we have to make sure that when we're getting any kind of offers, we're letting the manager know. And just, listen, I'm telling you at work, save yourself some time. I don't want to have 15 emails go back and forth, because let me tell you something. You would have to admit that in those ones, when it comes to negotiating, you end up having to get a manager involved at some point anyway. Why not get them involved out of the gate? Why have 4 or 5 things go back and forth? We audited a deal a couple weeks ago. It was like 18 emails going back and forth with the manager. You know what that tells me? 18 emails, literally counted them, with the sales, with the internet person and the customer. It's time for a TO. You wouldn't have 18 menus being printed up out there. You'd have maybe 2. Maybe 3, depending on the situation, before you'd say, go talk to them. What are you doing? You wouldn't send them out 18 times. When you see that kind of interaction with a customer, first of all, you have a customer that's interested in something. It's got to be interested. And it's time for a TO. And listen, it's not about, your managers in this store realize that this is the direction that you need to be in. They need to touch more deals, but to some extent, they are working the showroom too. They can't always see the interaction. They've got to be able to trust you that says, hey, listen, that's why when we do audits, if we're auditing your leads and I see an offer and there needs to be, hey, did you spoke to Bob. Bob gonna call. And then I can see the flow in there. But if I just see, unfortunately we can't do it, we can't get there. You send them a lease price of $350 a month, the customer wants to be at $250. Yeah, folks, you really need to look at Impreza. Right? Maybe you're right about that, but you should be saying, folks, I don't think that's reasonable what you're asking, but that's not my job to make those decisions. Would it be okay if I just have my sales manager call you? You're going to get a TO at some point, and you're going to have to go see that manager at some point anyway. The earlier you get the manager involved, just like on the floor, the higher the gross is. True? As a manager, we all know. The sooner we get involved in the deal, the gross is higher. I've never seen a deal where 4 or 5 menus are printed where we're making money, ever. Now, I'm not saying there's, again, the 80-20 rule, right? Someone threw in a trade at the last minute. We were working the deal, and we got a pre-approval, some kind of crazy thing. I'm just saying, in general, every menu we're losing gross. Like I used to say, if I'm the customer, and every time you go in that glass office, you come out with a lower price, keep going. Just keep going in. Every time you come out, the price is coming down. It's the same thing here. Don't be afraid to get them involved early on in the process. So, appointments. Now, I know for a fact that this is something where some people are really good at it and some people aren't real good at it. If you have a store, this is all about, I could put on here, all about culture, right? There's no exception about putting appointments in the system. It has to be. Appointments have to be marked. First of all, if you're a manager and you're doing reviews in the internet, it's all about appointment set, appointment show. That's how you manage a BDC. That's how you manage. How many leads did you get? How many appointments did you set? Oh, well, I really had more appointments than that, but it's not accurate. Well, that's all on you. That's all on you. You have to put them in there. And if you're not putting them in there, who's confirming them? And I would say that When I put, if I am the internet person and I am putting in my appointments, I'm expecting a manager to confirm them. I mean, that's an expectation that we have of each other. I'm expecting that if I go to the desk, that my boss will get up and take a TO without me begging on my hands and knees for it, right? There's unwritten rules. When I go to the desk and work a deal as a salesperson, I'm expecting that my manager will do everything it takes to make a deal. That if he tells me, Tony, there's nothing there, then I can confidently sleep good tonight knowing there was nothing there. I've been in stores where sales managers don't get up to take a TO. Well, let them go. When I got into business, they just called another salesman and split the deal on you a long time ago, right? I've had customers where I thought, one person looked at the trade and maybe lowballed it because the used car manager's having a bad day, and I'm just like, maybe someone else can take a look at the trade. That's a reasonable thing. If it's now, you're not getting up on a table saying, you guys are stealing all our trades. That's not what we're talking about. But it's reasonable if you have a nice retail piece to be able to say, hey, boss, can you take a look at this? I think there's more on this trade. And as a manager, it's not. You have to lose your pride a little bit and say, hey, listen, maybe I think the cars were 15, maybe Corey thinks the cars were 17. So what? That's not like, now it's all in how, that's a very sensitive thing because it's all in how it's done. It has to be done the right way. We're not saying every time we don't make a deal, we're running over to the general manager's office. Can you look at this? Can you look at it? That's not what we're talking about. But it's an unwritten rule that there's certain things, expectations. I expect salespeople to put appointments in the system. And I'm going to monitor that. There's nothing difficult about putting an appointment in the system. Not only that, but it triggers a whole different process in e-leads. And again, it needs to be confirmed. I can expect, one of the unwritten rules is, my manager should be confirming my appointments. If you're going to ask me to put it in the system, then I'm going to ask you to confirm it, right? And I think that we know for a fact that last time we looked, all the appointments weren't being put in the system. So that's a huge area of opportunity because it's going to skew your numbers on top of it. It's very difficult for a manager to manage if you don't know how many appointments. Listen, when you manage a BDC, you have a couple of big things on your wall. Leads, appointment set, appointment show, and sold. That's like how you run a BDC, no matter how big it is. That's the big numbers you're looking at.
I'm having trouble with the connection. Please try again in a moment.
Siri's having trouble with the connection. See, she was nice about it though, so that's not so bad. But appointments have to be put in the system regardless. And they have to be confirmed. And when they don't show, they need to be called the same day. If you have an appointment for 3 o'clock today, at 4 or 5, whatever your comfort zone is, you need to be on the phone with that customer. You need to be on the phone with that customer. And so if you can't imagine even how many times we see an appointment no-show at 3 o'clock and then we call the next day. By then they've already bought somewhere else. So again, basic, but has to absolutely get done. Always mention that there may be additional rebates and incentives available once you're able to speak to them on the phone. This will lead to a reason to set an appointment. The goal of an internet lead is getting them on the phone. So whatever I have to say in there without lying, I'm not telling you ever to be deceitful, but I've got to give them a reason to want to get them on the phone. Hey, Mr. Jones, once we talk on the phone, there may be some additional incentives available that you qualify for. We'll talk about it when we talk face-to-face or when we actually talk it on the phone. You got to give them a reason to want to set an appointment with you, okay? We've been mentioning it the whole time. The goal of every lead is an appointment, not just sending numbers and emails. Okay, so let's talk about this for a few minutes. Only send a menu when you have to. Out the door numbers should always be estimated. Now, we've audited leads, so I know what a lot of things that are happening. But what I'm suggesting is you can't imagine how many times we're just sending menu after menu. And I think you know when I say, let's preface it, when I say menu, you're sending over the printed Foursquare that has every single fee broken out. And what I'm suggesting is there's no need for that. There may come a need for that, but at that point, a manager should be involved. If someone says, listen, it isn't legitimate that they say, hey, Joe, what's the out-the-door figure on that number, right? That's legitimate. So if you get asked that question, what's the out-the-door figure? Okay? I can't tell you how many times I'll look and then a menu's being shot over. Why? What good's coming from that? Here, well, the sale price of the car is $18,999. You don't need to be a desk manager. Sale price of the car is $18,999. Tax is 6.25%. $5.99 documentary fee. $250 estimate on the plate. Here's your out the door. So my answer to that is I would type it. Sale price $18,999. Sales tax at 6.25. $1,500 and making it up. Delivery fee, documentary fee, $5.99, estimated plate, $250. There's your out the door. You don't need to send over a detailed menu because then they're going to open up a whole can of worms, and it's easy to print that menu out and just go to another store and say, can you beat this? Or pull it up on your phone. Can you beat that? You've got the menu right there in front of you. There's no reason. You can't give me a reason why you're sending that menu. Now, even if someone, again, when we talk about estimating, sometimes we want to be so exact, and there comes a time when we have to be exact. But too often we're opening up with exactness. Yeah, what do you think? Yeah, basically with about $2,000 down, your payments are around $250 on a lease for 36 months. We don't have to send over a menu with a grid because that's going to break down what I'm selling it for. Sometimes when they want to know I'm looking for a lease. Fantastic. The lease payments on that car with $5,000 down are about $250 a month for 36 months, $12K a year. When can you come in? How soon can you get here? Well, I need to see it all broken down on a menu. Okay. I'll be glad to get you that information. Always no fighting. Would it be okay if I had my manager call you really quick? Because before we send over that, I want to make sure we have everything we need because there may be some additional incentives and rebates that I'm not privy to. Is it okay if I have my manager call you? The manager should be sending over that menu. Now again, I'm not talking about 100% of the time, but all I'm suggesting is where is it getting you by sending the menu over? It's not. And too often you send over the menu and you know what you get after that? Crickets. Because they basically just take whoever's lower or whatever, or they take it and they go to the guy next door. If it was me and you sent me a menu and I lived 50 miles from here, I would go to the dealer in town and say, can you match or beat that? Can you beat that deal? Well, no. Can you at least match it? Yeah. Well, no, I'm actually a couple $100 higher, but you won't have to drive 50 miles to go there. You might close me then. So this is a really sensitive issue. We're so quick to send menus out, and all I'm suggesting is don't be afraid to estimate. Yeah, you're going to be around $250 a month with a couple $1,000 down. You're going to be around $300 a month. That's, again, what's the goal of that email? To get them in. Tony, I need to see and we see it all the time. I need to see a detailed breakdown of the numbers. Fantastic. I'll be glad to get you that information. Okay, but there's some more. There might be some other things that you've qualified for that I'm not privy to. Is it okay if I have my sales manager contact you before we send out that menu? I want to send you all the information. I want it to be accurate. Who's going to say no? No, don't have the manager call me. Just send me the numbers. Sir, I have to go to my manager it's my manager that's actually going to be sending the numbers. What I'm suggesting is if we take a few minutes on a phone call, we can make sure we've got all the rebates and incentives that you qualify for. It works all the time. The less menus you send out, the more appointments and again, I understand, especially now, this environment of buying cars online or all this information. How many times do they do a buy it now and everything's wrong? At my old store, they were clicking on buy it now, and there was something wrong in the programming at the factory website, and it wasn't adding in the destination. All my numbers were $1,295 off. You have to get a manager involved. Again, when you start to get managers involved with numbers, you're going to set more appointments and sell more cars. It's not even like I'm telling you, hey, test it out for a month and see if it works. If you get your managers involved in these deals, you'll sell more cars. And as a manager, if you get involved in them, you'll sell more cars. So, to me, it's all about the first week. Okay? If I'm doing this for a week and I'm still at crickets on day 8, I think we all realize there's probably nothing there. I'm going to put them into long-term follow-up and we'll see what happens. But with a couple things I want you to see here. Day 1, we talked about call, email, text, and then call depending on the time. Day 2, we talked about it in the manager training. A manager call and an email. Hey Joe, Tony, sales manager, just wanted to thank you for I know you sent in information. You build up a salesperson. Just wanted to let you know you're working with Seth. He's one of my best. Some people like to deal, and it's the same, and I'm saying the same thing in an email. Some people prefer to deal directly with a manager. Feel free to call me. Okay? Day 3, back in the salespeople. Call and an email. That email better not be the same thing as that first one. Because remember, they've gotten 2 emails now. One is your the home run email. It's the rock star email. The first one's the rock star email. Okay? So you've told them just about everything you can. You've looked and see if they qualify for businesses. You've talked about offered alternative vehicles. You really sent out a great email on day 1. Day 2, your manager said, hey, if you prefer to deal with the manager, please let me know. The day 2 email from the manager builds up the rep. Day 3, you're calling. Now the call, you could say, hey Joe, it's Tony from Johnson Subaru. I wanted to make sure that you got the information that I sent you. Give me a call as soon as you get this message. Really? The other thing is, every call, we learned this our first day in the car business, should be, hey Joe, I got great news for you. Call me as soon as you get this message. We lose sight of that simple thing we were probably taught day 1. It's not, hey, if you have any questions, call me, because the double negative there is, so if you don't have any questions, don't bother calling me. I know it sounds simple, but what message are you leaving? I'm telling you, I've listened to thousands and thousands and thousands of calls. And most salespeople say, hey Joe, it's Tony from Johnson Subaru. Want to thank you for coming in yesterday. Hey, listen brother, if you have any questions, give me a call, let me know. I'll be glad. My boss really wants to earn your business. It's the same thing everybody says. As opposed to, hey Joe, thanks for coming in yesterday. You know what? I thought about something when you left. I got great news for you. Call me as soon as you get this message. Does it work all the time? No. But does it increase the chances? Absolutely. They got to have a day of rest. We all need a day of rest there. Now, whether it's your day off, you could phrase this around your day off. You can kind of reschedule it a little bit. Day 5, you're saying, Tony, man, another email. What am I going to tell them this time? You're going to tell them something different. You're going to send them a different car. You're going to send them a CPO thing. You're going to send them, like we're reviewing what we talked about today, you're going to send them the information on, you're going to send them your Google review page, your dealer rater page. You're going to send them a thing about CPOs. You're going to send them a picture of the new service department. I don't care what you send them, but you're going to send them something different. And you're going to try texting again. Too many times we tried the day 1 to get the opt-in and then we don't get it and we never try it again. We're going to try texting again. Day 6, I'm going to call. And day 7. Now, this is my own thing. Come day 7, I want to know are you still interested. Because people that are interested engage. I think we all realize that if we make it to here, my email is, hey Joe, you inquired about a week ago. Did you find something? Are you still in the market? If you're not, it's okay, brother. Let me know so I can update my files. I don't have to torture you with 1,000 emails. And literally, sometimes I'll say it like that. I'm saying it, I'm watching my phrasing, but I'm using just common vernacular, how we would talk. Okay? But in that day 7 email, the other thing I'm watching, I don't think I put a slide on there, is are they opening my emails? Don't be afraid to say, hey, Bill, it's Tony here. I've noticed you've been opening my emails, but you're not communicating with me. Am I missing something? Are we scared to say that? If we don't say it, we got nothing. Am I missing something? I noticed you've opened up 15 of my emails and not once have you responded. Am I doing something wrong? Maybe they just respond and say, no, you're not doing anything wrong. I'm actually really not in the market. Good, I just want to know the answer so I can market. But I don't want to listen, I got enough stuff in my planner. If you've already bought a car, please let me know, it's okay. If you were just messing around at 2 a.m, it's okay, let me know. But at some point, you've got to say, are you still interested? Because I can tell you, one of the things I do as a manager, I've done this always. First day of the month, I send out a bulk email coming from me. It basically says the same thing. You recently inquired about a vehicle from us. It's been about 30 days, and about 60 days, whatever it is, I send it to all the active leads. Are you still in the market? Question mark. If your situation's changed, and you're out of the market, you bought elsewhere, please reply to this email so I can update your files and we don't overload you with emails. You can't imagine the response. I'll have 75 emails that say, bought elsewhere, bought elsewhere, bought elsewhere. Don't forget that the number one reason that you're going to mark a lead bad is bought elsewhere. Not a bad lead, but that you're going to close out a lead is bought elsewhere. So as much as we like to think these people are wasting time, I didn't get a good number, they gave me a bad email, they gave me this, almost always it's still they bought elsewhere. So you had a customer, we just couldn't get a hold of them. No, maybe we didn't have what they wanted. They inquired about an Ascent and they ended up buying a Ford F-150. It's possible. But if you remember that almost all of them, we tend to think sometimes they're a waste of time. A lot of times it's just that we're not getting them any information to get them excited. We got to be able to look in the mirror and say, sometimes just going through the motions and sending out template after template doesn't excite them enough. And someone in town is telling them what they want to hear. And we all have heard it. Oh yeah, this guy, hey, what happened to that appointment you had? Oh yeah, well so-and-so called them and told them they'll take $5,000 off the car. And as a manager, we say, that's impossible. They're lying to him. That ain't gonna get done. No way, no way, no way. You're probably right. But what good does that do us? They get to the dealership, and you know what? We've seen it happen before. Oh yeah. Oh, I thought you were talking about this model. Actually, it's $2,000 off. Really? They vomit all over the place. Okay, sir, relax. What price did you have at that other store? Okay, we're still better than them, so why would you want to go there now? You all know, once I got them in here, the odds of closing them go to here. The problem is, what are we doing to get them in there? And finally, I want you don't have to be a mathematician to see that 1, 2, 3, 4 calls, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 emails in week 1. 4 calls and 5 emails in the first week. So if I see that you've had 100 leads this month, I need to see hundreds of calls and emails. It's just a fact. It's just a fact. I can't tell you how many times this gets eliminated, the calls. And when you start to audit leads, all you see are emails. Day 1, day 3, day 5, day 7, day 12. I'd be like, I remember talking to one of my BDC agents. I'm like, brother, do you ever make a call? Oh, now, if the lead doesn't have a phone number, that's legitimate. Although I should see what? I should see a template in there asking for their phone number. But you can't imagine how many people get it after day 7. It just becomes email, because you're just trying to shut your planner down. And we never pick up the phone again. So again, you could see this is kind of a template for this is how many calls, emails, and texts you should be making the first week. Right there, week 1 should be at least 3, 3, 3. There should be 3 calls, 3 emails, 3 texts, week 1. I mean, that's 9, assuming, again, that you have all that information. Obviously, you need the cell phone and an email to do that. But for the leads that have a cell phone, that have a phone number and an email, there should be 9 attempts in the first week. Now, you're not going to have 9 attempts in the second week, but so what does that go to? 9, then maybe 6, then maybe 4. But at the very least, you could see that if a lead's 30 days old, you're going to have a pretty good number of calls and emails in there. If you're a manager looking at it, it should be relatively close, emails and calls. If you're looking at when you're looking at your own statistics, if you're heavy one or another, that's because that's your preference. Just call it what it is. You're an emailer or you're a caller. It's one or the other. I've looked at people who they'll have 400 emails for the month and like 50 calls. Then I'll have people that have 500 calls for the month and 30 emails. You know why? They're not comfortable with emails or they're not comfortable with the calls. In the internet, you better be comfortable with all 3, especially the texting. So that's kind of an idea to see, am I really putting in effort? I think I'm working these leads. Boss, I'm working them. Well, if you came to me and told me that all these things I talked about today, I would be reviewing with you. Are you making this many calls and emails and texts? Then I'm not calling you out saying you're not working hard, but it's not about working hard. It's about being efficient. It's about getting these people in. You could go to the gym. We know people. I'm going to the gym, brother, and I go to the gym 4 times a week, and they're 400 pounds overweight. You're doing something wrong. God bless you for going to the gym. That's a great start, but something's wrong with your diet. Or when you get in there, you're eating a candy bar sitting on the machine, with a protein shake, right? There's got to be something else going on there. It's not just about activity. I think that's the point. Anybody can produce activity. I could look like a rock star. I could have 500 calls, 1,000 emails, texts. It's got to be producing. If these things are being done correctly, they will always produce results. Okay. We're getting towards the end here. This is something I always remind salespeople, especially whether it's internet or just the sales staff. The goal of working your planner is not to complete it, it's make contact and set appointments. I shared with your team before, it would be 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'd look in Vin Solutions, and I'd have it up on the screen, and I'd see somebody with like 40 tasks past due at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Now they're getting out at 5. I've been on them all day. Your tasks. Not, hey, brother, your tasks. Could you please do your task? I'm begging you, please do your task. Right? I've asked 15 times. Now it's 3 o'clock. All salespeople to the dial desk. Okay, so-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so. You're leaving in 2 hours. You're 42 tasks past due. I click on that 4 o'clock, zeroed out. Whew, man, amazing. Did 42 tasks in an hour? Well, you know how you do 42 tasks in an hour? You're going through the planner just to get your boss off your back. When I know this seems like something that's so simple, but it's just a reminder. The goal is to actually make contact and set appointments. Take your time. Look and see what you're sending. If you've already sent the customer a price, then your email needs to reflect that you already sent them that information. You can't imagine how many times you start to go through these leads and you see we're sending emails that are totally not relevant to anything that's happened up until that point in time. So I know it sounds simple, but it is really make contact and set appointments. I mean, if anybody has any questions, like I said, you could see me after one-on-one. I'll give you my email address. I have an email up here. You can email that Gmail account anytime that you have any questions about anything. I don't claim to know it all. I would, if I did, I'd go run another huge. I'd go back to running a huge BDC again. There is no magic bullet to selling cars. There's no magic bullet to working internet leads, and there's no magic bullet to working the phones. But just like sports, we realize that there is a process that increases the chance of success. That's all a process does, right? That's all. If you're on the sales floor and you're a manager, you understand that if a salesperson meets them with a professional greeting and a big smile, and sits them down, gets them a bottle of water, finds out a little bit of information, builds some rapport, picks out the vehicle, maybe gets with the manager, gets a little direction, pulls the vehicle up, does a great presentation, take it out to a great demo drive, comes back, maybe walks them through the parks on the end, walks them through the state-of-the-art service department. Does that mean you're going to close 80% of your deals? No. But does it increase the odds of selling a car? Yes. How many times we hear in sports, it's about the basics. Teams can't block. In football, they can't block. You got trouble. You could have Tom Brady back there. If you don't have any offensive line blocking him, it doesn't matter. If you can't pass, block, shoot, you have to be good at the basics. These things I show you today, they're not groundbreaking. Some of the things I want you to remember that are critical to me is, first of all, talking about the trade. Talking about the trade. Wear it out. Tell them whatever you think it's worth, folks, it's probably worth more. Whatever you're thinking. And remembering that the first email is the rock star email. That first email needs to be laced with samples of all of the menu, right? When I'm going to a restaurant and I look at the menu and it's this big, I'm like, oh, that's it. But when I go, like I love go Cheesecake Factory, there's like 18 pages on the menu. I'm thinking, no matter what I feel like, I'm going to, because I know they'll have something I like, right? That first email is like the menu. You've got to be talking about their hobbies. You've got to be talking about the trade. You've got to ask them, are you going to be financing with us? Putting all this in the notes. Customer says he's paying cash. Customer says he's pre-approved at his credit union. Whatever it is, that gets back to the notes. But that first email is critical. It really is everything. And you've got to ask yourself, anything I'm doing, am I increasing the odds of getting them on the phone? Because remember, no matter what happens with these leads, no matter what you do, if I take the lead or you take the lead, the goal is still the same. I've got to get them on the phone. We're not talking about the guy who sends in an email only, who says, I only talk by email and I'll be there today at 5. Forget him. I'm saying that your average internet person, whether I work the lead, you work the lead, Joe Verdi works the lead, Flips Grant Cardone works the lead, they still have to get them on the phone to get them into the dealership. So all of your activities need to be geared towards making contact. That's it. That's the name of the game, is making contact. I would hope that you would see a couple of these things and say, you know what? I'm good at what I do. Most internet people are good at what they do. But there's always a couple of new tricks. I use tricks in a good way. Listen, I don't care if you've been a football coach in the league for 30 years. Have you ever noticed, for most of us older guys, the coaches were all the old timers. Now the coaches are all 30. 28. Sooner or later, they're going to be hiring high school kids to coach these NFL teams. Why? Because they've got all the new stuff. We all watch Moneyball for the most part. When Moneyball came out, they told that Brad Pitt's character, "You're nuts." Those scouts, those old timers sat around the room dipping and spitting in the cup. "I've been doing this for 40 years. I know what a pitcher looks like." And him and the Jonah Hill character in there saying, "Well, according to the computer, these statistics, the WAR and this and that, what? You're going to manage a team that way?" It works. Now we see all these new head coaches they're all stats guys. How many times are they going for it on fourth down now? We never saw that in our lives. Because they got somebody on an iPad saying, "Now if you go for it, you got a 29.8% shot of making a first down." Well, you know what? We're losing, we're down, let's go for it. That never happened in the past. We all have to realize, and you've heard this before, I had a little surgery done the other day. This guy, he's an old timer. I like the old timers. But I would hope that he's getting refresher courses on the new materials, right? That he's still not, "Hey, I graduated from medical school in 1958. I like those old guys, but there's been some advancements in medicine since 1958 that I hope he knows about, right? There's some new kinds of ways, instead of those horrible bite things to take x-rays, they got stuff where they just put a wand around your mouth. I like that stuff, right? I'm not saying that what he's doing is wrong, but you've got to realize that this business is ever changing. The basics don't change. We're in the relationship business. We got to build a relationship. But working leads, we are in a technical world with, I hate to say it in this room, with younger people who their whole life is the cell phone, who don't know any other life but my phone or my iPad. They're not even comfortable talking to you. They can't even hold a conversation unless it's with a gaming headset and they're playing online. The fact of the matter is, I'm a 56-year-old man. I've been in the car business since I was in my early 20s. In the early 20s, it was the newspaper and sending out mailers once a month from my family, sitting on a floor, licking them. Now it's a Facebook page. Now it's digital. Now it's understanding the internet. Now it's texting. We can't lose sight that we have to be careful that we've got to meet these people at their level. We live in a technical society. The leads are just going to increase, It's not going to go backwards. We're not going to get less internet leads. We're going to get more. How we handle those internet leads is going to set the pace for everything that we do. Any questions anybody could think about?
Tony, ton of good nuggets here. I got a page and a half of notes. Love it.
Good.
Related to the first just before we wrapped up.
Go.
Before that first contact, so important. What are some good suggestions for text messaging on first contact? Because we can't put all those "why buy from me's"
Nope.
in an email, in a text, right?
Well, you're looking for the opt-in on the initial text. Remember,
everybody on our website's opted in.
Okay, so everybody's already
40% of our
opted in,
leads
right?
are pre-opted.
So you have to have what's called, what it used to be called now, even that's getting dated, is the Twitter mind, right? The elevator speech. You have to be able to. You can't have a long email. It has to be. I've got something like a call to action that says,
okay.
We've received. You got to see how long you can make the text, but you don't want it to be too long. But it's basically, again, it's to get them on the phone. The goal of that text, Corey, leads to the call. So it's whatever you're comfortable doing. We received your information about the blank, or we received hi, it's Tony from blank. Someone's already say Tony from Colonial Subaru. Received your request for information. Please call me and your phone number in there. And this is where what I would suggest is, like with any other kind of advertising campaign, you do some A/B texts. Try 2 different texts to see what works. If it's Spanish, the one thing I didn't talk about in here is if they're Spanish, or do you have a bilingual text in there? Do you have something for Spanish people in there? Do you have something to reach them? Some stores don't have to worry about that, but some do. But basically, Corey, at the end of the day, it's a call to action that says, this is Tony from Colonial Subaru. We received your internet request. Please call me with your phone number, because that way the phone number is a live link and they can hit it, or respond to this text.
Okay.
The other thing to do is start to notice the text that you get from your doctor's office, from other businesses, from other things that you inquire about online. Like you go to book a flight and you sign up for text things, notice what those texts look like, because they've spent a lot of money figuring out what it looks like, and kind of cheat off of that a little bit. Again, the text means nothing if it doesn't lead to a phone call. So what I want to say is, your lead was received, please call me blank, or text this number, or text back to this number, however it's set up in the system. But it's always a call to action. And have 1 or 2 or 3 of them and see, and ask these guys in your meetings, hey, what's working? See, the other thing is to sit around and say, what's working? What's working for you? What templates are working for you? Hey, I just started doing that trade thing Tony was talking about, and I'm getting more activity. Well, then you know it's working. Hey, I started using this for a text, and I'm getting a better response. It's the synergy that comes from the room that one person might be killing it with the text. And if they don't share it with the rest of us, then it doesn't do us any good. So whatever that text is, it's got to be a call to action to get them on the phone. Or reply, where it would say, call this number, or simply reply to this text.
Yeah. Makes sense.